Hello everybody, I'm Miss Jessica from EVPL McCullough and we're here for our Chapter Book Storytime Variety Pack. And the last time we were together, we spun our wheel and we landed on science fiction. And science fiction is so much fun because it can be, so many different things. So this is a book that I have had on my list for years because of the title. It caught my eye a long time ago and I just loved it and definitely wanted to share this story with you. And Harper is on the book. She's so excited about it too. All right, so we are going to be reading The True Meaning of 𝑠MECK𝑑𝑎𝑦 by Adam Rex. And this book was actually turned into a movie as well. So I know I'm one of those people that I actually am unlike most people where I like to watch the movie first and then read the book because I always feel like the book tells you more information. So if you are interested in checking out the movie from this, it was released in 2015 and it is actually called Home. So it's based on this. It is a very different title. And also before we get started, this is an ebook and an e-audiobook as well as a print book in our collection, and there's actually a sequel to this. So if you enjoy this, definitely check out the sequel. Okay, so like I said, the title caught my eye. So what is 𝑠MECK𝑑𝑎𝑦? Let's see what the inside cover says. It all starts with a school essay. 12-year-old Gratuity Tip Tucci is assigned to write 5 pages on the true meaning of 𝑠MECK𝑑𝑎𝑦 for the National Time Capsule Contest. And she's not sure where to begin. When her mom started telling everyone about the messages aliens were sending through a mole on the back of her neck, maybe on Christmas Eve, when huge, bizarre spaceships descended to Earth, a colony, and aliens called the Boov abducted her mother. Or when the Boov declared Earth a colony, renamed it 𝑠MECKLAND in honor of glorious Captain 𝑠MECK, and forced all Americans to relocate to Florida via rocket pod. Gratuity's story is much bigger than the assignment. It involves her unlikely friendship with renegade Boov mechanic named 𝐾𝐞𝐥𝐢𝐳, a feudal journey south to find Gratuity's mother at the Happy Mouse Kingdom, a cross-country trip in a hovercar called Slushes, and an outrageous plan to save Earth from yet another alien invasion. All right, so I don't know about you guys, but this sounds like an amazing book. So I like that it's turning things a little bit on its head where we are supposed to celebrate the aliens as they come to Earth and take over. So kind of a different concept than what we may have seen in other books. Okay, so I remember back when I was in school, I definitely had to write assignments, especially over things that happened in the news and what was your perspective. And even now with the pandemic that just happened, I know a lot of different places, including the library, are collecting people's stories so that we can remember it for history. So that's kind of an interesting assignment for her to, what do you remember from 𝑠MECK𝑑𝑎𝑦 and what do you remember from all of this, and to kind of think about what happened, where were you, what were your feelings. So this might be an inspiration for something for you to do in your own life. Okay, and I will say that this does have some really great illustrations in it. So here is a very interesting car that is definitely flying through the air. Okay. Oh, and we also have Mom and Me Spring 2011, and there is a picture of our main character and her mother. Assignment: write an essay titled The True Meaning of 𝑠MECK𝑑𝑎𝑦. What is the 𝑠MECK𝑑𝑎𝑦 holiday? How has it changed the year since the aliens left? You may use your own personal experiences from the alien invasion to make your points. Feel free to draw pictures or include photographs. All essays will be sent to the National Time Capsule Committee in Washington, D.C. The committee will choose one winning essay to be buried with the National Time Capsule which will be uncovered 100 years from now. Essays must be at least 5 pages long. Gratuity Tucci, Daniel Landry Middle School, 8th grade, the true meaning of 𝑠𝑚𝑒𝑘�𝑑�𝑎𝑦. It was moving day. Should that be capitalized? I never would have capitalized it before, but now moving day is a national holiday and everything, so I think it should be capitalized. Anyway, it was moving day and everybody was crazy. You remember, it was chaos. People running around with armfuls of heirloom china and photo albums and carrying food and water, carrying their dogs and kids because they forgot that their dogs and kids could carry themselves. Crazy. I remember one lady with a mirror and I thought, why save a mirror? And then I watched her run down the street with it in both hands, arms outstretched, like she was chasing vampires. I saw a group of white guys dressed as Indians who were setting fires and dropping tea bags down manhole covers. There was a man holding a chessboard high over his head like a waiter, looking all around him on the pavement, shouting, "Has anyone seen a black bishop?" over and over. I remember Apocalypse Hal was on the corner by the laundromat. Hal was a neighborhood street preacher who worked at the fish and crab place next door. He wore a sandwich board sign of Bible verses and shouted angry things at passerby like, "The end of times are near," and "Seafood sampler, $5.99. Now his sign just read, "Told you so." And he looked more anxious than angry. "I was right," he said as I passed. "About the fish or the apocalypse?" I asked. He followed beside me. "Both. That should count for something, shouldn't it? That I was right?" "I don't know." "I didn't think it would be aliens," he mumbled. "I thought it would be angels with flaming swords, something like that." "Hey, maybe they are angels. You find some pretty weird descriptions of them in the good book. There's this one angel in Revelation with 3 heads and wheels." "I think they're just aliens, Hal," I said. "Sorry." Apocalypse Hal stopped, but I kept walking. After a few seconds, he called after me. "Hey, girl, do you need help carrying stuff? Where's your pretty mom?" "I'm going to meet her right now," I shouted. I didn't look back. "Haven't seen her in a while." "It's okay, meeting her," I said. It was a lie. All right, so here is a picture of Hal with his sandwich board. I was all alone because Mom had already been called up to the spaceships by signals from the mole on her neck. It was just me and the cat, and I have to tell you, I wasn't feeling too friendly toward the cat. I carried her for a while, but she squirmed like a bag of fish, so I set her down. When I walked, she followed me, flinching whenever someone ran by or honked a car horn, which was all the time. It was step, step, jerk, like she was doing the conga. Eventually, I looked behind, then all around, and didn't see her anymore. "Fine," I said. "See ya, Pig." And that was that. My cat's name is Pig. I probably should have mentioned that. The weird thing about writing for people in the future is that you don't know how much you need to explain. Do people still keep pets in your time? Do you still have cats? I'm not asking if cats still exist. Right now, we have a lot more cats than we know what to do with. But I'm not really writing this for people right now. I mean, if anyone besides my teacher ever sees these words, it'll be because I won the contest. And this essay was buried in the time capsule with the photographs and newspapers, and it was dug up 100 years later, and now you're reading it in like a 5-legged chair while snacking on roast planet or whatever. And it seems like you should know everything about my time already. But then I think of how little I know about 1913, so maybe I should just clear up a few things. This story starts in June 2013, about 6 months after the alien Boov arrived, which also makes it 6 months after the aliens completely took over, and about a week after they decided the entire human race would be happier if they all moved to some little out-of-the-way state where they could keep out of trouble. At the time, I lived in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania was on the eastern side of the United States. The United States was this big country where everybody wore funny t-shirts and ate too much. I'd been living by myself after Mom left. I didn't want anyone to know. I had learned to drive our car short distances by nailing cans of corn to my church shoes so I could reach the pedals. I made a lot of mistakes at first. And if anyone was walking on the sidewalk at 49th and Pine after dark on March 3rd, 2013, I owe you an apology. But eventually I got really good, like NASCAR good. So while most people were reporting to the Boovish rocket pods for relocation to Florida, I figured I'd drive myself there, which with no help from anyone. I got directions off the internet, which wasn't easy as it used to be because the Boov had started shutting it down. But the route looked easy. The website said it would take 3 days, but most drivers weren't as good as I was, and they wouldn't be eating frosting and root beer so they could drive nonstop either. I worked my way through knots of people, past a woman with a baby in a crystal punch bowl, past a man carrying rotting boxes that bled baseball cards all over the streets, and finally to the community tennis courts where I'd left the car. It was a little hatchback the size and color of a refrigerator and only about twice as fast, but it didn't use much gas and I didn't have much money. I drained our bank account and there was less than I expected in the rainy day fund that Mom had kept at the bottom of an underwear drawer in a pantyhose egg labeled dead spiders. As if I hadn't known it was there. As if I wouldn't have wanted to look at dead spiders. I threw the camera bag and backpacks into the back seat and suddenly got a dead weight in my stomach from the loneliness of it all. I turned my head this way and that, looking past the panicky people, looking past a man wearing oven mitts and holding a pot roast. For God's sake, pardon my language. I don't know what or who I was looking for, certainly not the cat, but I called her anyway. Pig! I yelled, Pig! Shouting pig outdoors usually attracts some attention, but no one paid me any that day. Actually, on my third pig, one guy ducked, but I'm still not sure what that was about. Anyway, just as I was turning to get into the car, a fat gray cat came barreling across the street and leaped up onto the dashboard. She turned around and stretched her cheek out for a scratch. Oh, I said, okay, I guess you can come, but you'll have to do your business at rest stops. Pig purred. By this point, I was thinking it would be nice to have some company, as I didn't expect to see anyone else for a couple of days. I assumed the highways would be empty. You see, what with nearly everybody taking the rocket pods. I was right, and I was wrong. All right, and we have a picture of Pig the cat. Did you know that cats don't like riding in cars? They don't, or at least mine didn't. Before we started out, I reset the trip odometer so I know that Pig spent the first 22.5 miles staring out the real windshield and hissing. She clung to the headrest of the passenger seat like a Halloween decoration, back arched and poofy. Calm down, I shouted, and I dodged abandoned cars on the highway. I'm a really good driver. She stopped hissing and started growling, sort of. You know how cats growl, like pigeons who smoke too much. I could have left you at home, you traitor. You could have moved in with your precious Boov. I have no trouble looking at a cat and steering at the same time, but for some reason the car sort of hopped over a skin, a tire tread on the road, and Pig squealed and shot off the headrest, looped around the back seat a couple of times and darted over the gear shift, finally curling into a ball under the brake pedal. Uh-oh, I muttered. I pressed the brake gently, trying to coax her out. She hissed and took a swipe at the can of cord under my shoe. I looked up at the road, dodged an empty motorcycle, then glanced back down at my feet. Come on, Pig, I said reassuringly, while swerving to avoid a minivan. Come on out. Oil tanker, I'll give you a treat. Sports car, why had everyone just left their cars? Mer? Said Pig. Yeah, you want a treat? Treat, treat. I lifted over and I lilted over and over like a songbird. Pig still hadn't moved. But I had a stretch of clear roads. I was just keeping my eye on a big rig on the left in the distance, and that's when I saw something move. It hung in the air over the trailer, lazily bobbing up and down. It was a mass of bubbles. Soap bubbles? But some were the size of softballs, and others were like basketballs. And they all stuck and interlaced together to make a star shape as big as a washing machine, like this. And there's a picture. It didn't move with the breeze. It just dipped and rose slightly as though tethered with an invisible string to the big rig smokestack. And as my eyes traced down the smokestack, I saw something else, or someone else, standing on the roadway. There's a guy or something, I said, as much to myself as to Pig. The guy or woman or whatever was wearing bright safety orange, easy to see, and maybe some kind of clear plastic helmet, and I thought, radiation suit? And then we got close enough to see it was one of them, a boov. Okay, I whispered, and I pulled the car as fast to the right as I could without hitting the barricade. The boov noticed my approach and turned that weird body to face me. The sun was glinting off its helmet, but I think it raised its arm, palm out, in a way that must be recognized across the galaxy as stop. Then again, it was hard to tell. They had such small arms. I couldn't stop, but I could take my foot off the gas, so I slowly lost speed as I hugged the shoulder of the road and said Hail Marys under my breath. We were getting really close now, close enough to see the awful mess of legs under the boov's body and the broad, flat head inside the helmet. I made that gesture again, more forcefully, and it was definitely stop. I lifted my hand in return and smiled and waved and kept my eyes on the road. I didn't want to look at it anymore. So I almost missed it when the boov's other arm whipped down its side and snapped back up with something in its hand. All at once, I recognized the thing from the TV. One of those horrible guns you saw a lot of when we'd still been trying to fight. Terrible guns that didn't even make a noise or a light. They just pointed at you and then half your body was gone, just like that. Well, one thing I could still do was hit the gas. I ducked and slammed on the pedal. The car lurched forward, not nearly fast enough, scraping the highway barricade and sending up sparks like the 4th of July. The boov shouted something I couldn't hear or understand. I tried to make a poor target of myself, swerving back and forth and looking up just in time to avoid hitting an SUV. I looked out at my right side mirror and saw that it had been wrenched off by the barricade, so I looked at the rear view mirror and noticed that most of the SUV wasn't there anymore. A huge chunk scooped out as clean as ice cream. And so I tried to look at my left side mirror, but it wasn't there anymore either. I turned and I saw the boov fading into the distance, far away now. It wasn't chasing me. Oh boy, Pig, I said softly, and Pig crawled out from under the brake like it wasn't anything to her one way or the other. A minute later, I pulled to the side of the road and stopped and looked around the car. The boov gun had disintegrated the mirror, and there was a hole in the left rear window where the beam had entered the car. I craned my neck and saw that there was an even bigger hole in the rear windshield where it left. Each hole was as perfect as could be, like a biscuit cutter through dough. I hate them, I said. I hate them. We were really lucky, Pig. But Pig didn't hear. She was stretched out on the passenger seat asleep already. Why did the boov shoot? I didn't know. All I was doing was driving to Florida like they wanted. But at mile 48, I found out why nobody else was on the road. There wasn't one. We were curving around a bend when the car bucked over a pothole. My seatbelt went taut as I jerked forward and back, pain twisting up my neck. Pig rolled off her seat, woke up briefly on the floor of the car, and fell back asleep where she was. I swerved around chunks of asphalt and rounded something that was less like a pothole and more like an empty swimming pool. Then another curve and the road was gone. My little car dropped off a shelf of pavement into a crater of earth and tar, and I jiggled the steering wheels. I mashed my car can foot against the brake. We skidded and plowed through twisted metal curlicues that were once a barricade, then slid down the embankment, rolled over twice, and came to an abrupt stop in a Mopo parking lot. The air around the car was orange with dust. I clutched the steering wheel for like a life preserver. Pig was sprawled on her back in the crook where the windshield meets the dash. Harper's got the zoomies. Sorry. Yeah. Our eyes met and she gave me a short hiss. So that was it. Nobody was taking their cars because the boov had destroyed the highway. Of course they had. I wearily unbuckled myself and fell out of the car. Pig followed and stretched and darted off after a bug. Harper, come here. I nearly puked. Can I say that in a school paper? That I puked? Because when I say nearly, what I really meant was repeatedly. While I was bent over, I noticed that we'd blown a tire. I wasn't sure if there was a spare, but it didn't matter much one way or the other since I didn't know how to change it. All Mom has ever taught me about vehicle maintenance was the number of a tow truck to call if you stopped moving forward. Well, it was a long shot, but I figured I might as well try to call somebody. I wasn't likely to get an answer, but we were too far from home to walk back now. I popped open the glove box and retrieved the emergency cell phone that only had 1 hour of talking time on it and was not a toy. I flipped it open and pushed the power button, and it suddenly crackled to life. Strange voices gibbered back and forth on the other end. But I didn't even dial yet, I murmured, and the voices stopped. Hello, I said. The voices came again in bleeps and pops like a lamb stepping on bubble wrap, then grew louder, more agitated. I quickly hit the power button again and flapped the phone shut. It was like something gross and alien in my hand now, so I pushed it back in the glove box and put a car manual on top of it. Car manual, I thought. It might tell me how to change the tire. No, later. It can wait. I sat down. The sky was clear again and blue. In the distance, there was a small town I didn't know. The tallest building was an old stone church, and this had a clean bite taken out of its bell tower. Nearby, I could see broken telephone poles hanging like limp marionettes. I'd been sitting long enough. Maybe there's still some food in the Mopo store, I said, brightly looking for Pig. For you time capsule types, Mopo is something called a convenience store, as in the soda is conveniently located right next to the donuts and lottery tickets. People who want to understand better how the human race was conquered so easily need to study those stores. Almost everything inside was filled with sugar, cheese, or weight loss tips. It was dark inside, but I expected that. Pig followed me to the door, which opened with a jingle, and into the empty store. The shelves were nearly bare, probably looted, except for some moldy bread and yogurt health snacks called Nutrizone Extreme Fitness Plus Blaster Bars with calcium. But there was also a bag and a few tins of cat food, which was nice. I sat on the cold linoleum floor and ate one of the pink health bars, and Pig had a tin of Sea Captain's entree. I don't think we're going to make it to Florida, I said. Meow? Florida. That's where we're going. Big state, full of oranges. Pig went back to her food, and I took another bite of what I was beginning to think was just a big eraser. Maybe we could stay here. We're pretty far outside the city. The boob might not even notice. Meow? Sure we could. We could live in someone's house or hotel, and the town's probably full of canned food. Meow meow? Fine. You're so smart. Give me one reason why it wouldn't work. Meow. Oh, you say that about everything. Pig purred and settled down for a nap. I leaned back against an ATM and shut my eyes against the setting sun. I don't remember falling asleep, but it was dark outside when I woke with a loaf of bread under my head and heard the jingle of the front door. I gasped for breath and scampered under a shelf. Too late, I remembered Pig, who was nowhere to be seen. Something moved through the vacant store, its footsteps like a drum roll. Go away, I chanted in my head, at what I was sure was a boob. It skittered past my row of shelves, and I got a look at its cluster of tiny elephant legs clad in a light blue rubber suit. Boob, probably sent to find me. Then the drum roll stopped. A wet, nasally voice said, "Oh, hello, kitten." Pig. How did you come to be inside the Mopo? I heard Pig purr loudly and purr loudly the skunk. She was probably rubbing up against each one of those 8 legs. Did someone let you inside? My heart pounded, as if Pig might say, yeah, Gratuity did, aisle 5. Perhaps you are being hungry, the boob told Pig. Would you enjoy to join me in a jar of cough syrup? The drum roll resumed. They were moving again. I poked my neck out of the shelf in time to see them walk through a door marked Employees Only. I slid out and ran, unthinking, for the door. I pushed through with a shove and the tinkling sound and thought, oh yeah, the bell. A quick look behind me and I was off. I sped to the car, retrieved my bag, and made for a row of hedges that lined the parking lot. I was safely behind them and watching through a gap in the leaves just in time to see the booth peek out of the Mopo. It squeezed through the door and looked from side to side, scanning the lot for whatever had been dumb enough to forget the door jingled. Then he gave a start when he saw my car and smiled back at Pig. I could see her through the door, her front paws up on the glass. "Hello, the boo shouted. He looked up toward the ruined highway and whistled through his nose. I tried to make myself as small as possible, tried to stop my heart from pounding or the blood from thrumming in my ears. The booth pattered across the asphalt towards something new, something I hadn't noticed before. In the corner of the lot was this crazy looking thing, like a huge spool of thread with antlers. It was plasticky and blue, and it was hanging in the air about 6 inches above the ground. "I would not to hurt you," the boo shouted again. "If you would enjoy to be my guest, there is enough cough syrup and teething biscuits for everyone." And here is a picture of that vehicle. If he, whatever it, hopped his squat body atop the big spool, clamping down the edges with his little elephant legs. His tiny frog arms reached up and gripped the antlers, and with a few flicks and twists, the blue plastic thing rose a foot in the air and sailed up the hill of shale and weeds to the highway. "Hello," he shouted as he drifted away. "There is no to fear. The boobs are no longer eating you people." The boob's weird little scooter disappeared over the ridge, and I darted out toward the store. For what? To get Pig? She probably preferred to stay with the booth, but she was all I had, and the car wouldn't drive on a flat tire, and my only thought was to vanish into this little town and hope the booth didn't try too hard to find me. "Time to go, Pig," as I said as I burst into the mopo, my guts jingling like a nervous doorbell. She tried to slip out the door, after the alien, I guess, but I scooped her up. Stupid cat. I pushed all the cat food and health bars into my bag and dashed out to the car. One last check to make certain I had everything, then I was gone. At the passenger door, I remembered the cell phone and wondered if I should take it, and it was about that time that I got a wicked idea. Pig squirmed in my arms. "Roar," she said. I laughed. "Don't worry, we're not going anywhere. We'll just march into the store and wait for your friend to come back." Pig hissed quietly to herself. All right, so we're going to pause there, and if you happen to be reading this book later, we're on page 20, and there is a break in the text right about halfway down. So we're going to stop there because we're still actually quite far from the end of the chapter. So already I'm kind of hooked on this book. I want to know what the Boo want, if we're going to find out more about what happened when they arrived on Earth. What in the world does Gratuity plan to do if she's going to hang out in this town, if she's going to try to go to Florida? And just the beginning of the book where it described what's going to happen, I'm really interested to find out how she makes this friend, J-Lo, and what they do on their journey. So if you are interested in continuing this story, remember, print copy, ebook, e-audiobook, lots of ways to keep going. And also, again, this is a movie, so you could either watch the movie and read the book, watch the movie, or I don't know, think about how you could even create your own account of what's going on in the world, and maybe you could make a book someday. Okay, so we're gonna pause there, and we're going to get out our wheel and spin that to see what we're going to be reading next time. So see you in just a second. All right, so we're gonna be spinning our wheel to see what we're going to be reading next time. And again, if we land on something we've done recently, I will probably re-spin it just so that we can get some variety. So, oh, Harper's gonna help us. We have science fiction, which we just did, historical fiction, humor, fantasy, spooky, mystery, realistic fiction, adventure. All right, so watch out, Harper. You're gonna be right where the wheel's spinning. Can you move, please? Okay, here we go. Ooh, realistic fiction. Okay, so that means that next time we're together, we'll be reading a story that is based in reality, that doesn't have any kind of fantastical elements. It's something that could really happen. And I really like those books because they kind of give you a perspective about something that may be new to you. All right, well, thank you again so much for joining us. Don't forget, go to evpl.org for all of our amazing resources. You can see what programs we have coming up. You can see all of our digital collection. Plus, you can explore our actual collection on there, whether it's print or ebooks. And that has all the information there on how you can place holds or come in and pick up something new to read and explore. And don't forget, you can even stop in and see us and grab some awesome materials. And we'd be happy to help you find your next favorite book if it is not The True Meaning of 𝑠MEK Day. If you'd like something different or if you'd like to read this, we'll help you get to it. All right, well, thank you again for joining me. I will see you next Friday. Bye. Say bye, Harper. Bye.